Father says to stay inside, that it's not safe outdoors. There are people wearing shirts from Hawaii, and they're dangerous. So we stay inside, away from the trouble.
Of course I'll get your slippers for you, Father.
Silly old man. These should be them. White shirts. Father? Father? The first time ever in any of my Why It Sucks where I review multiple movies, I didn't take the one step and just go to two. I took an extra step and went to three. And I decided to dedicate it to M. Night Shyamalan movies. What a mistake that was. And don't get me wrong, Shyamalan can be good when he's good. Sixth Sense is good. Unbreakable is even better. Signs, while not as good as Unbreakable, is still decent. I wanted to do a little bit of research looking at his IMDb ratings for these three movies. And let me say, out of these three, The Village is the most watchable. But the other two, no chance in hell. So what is going on with this guy? Why is he totally getting worse and worse and worse and worse in the ratings and just overall filmmaking quality? I don't know, but I just watched three examples. So let me start out with The Village. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one, because The Village is like one of his most highest liked ones by his fans, but it's still incredibly lazy. With The Village, it takes place, you don't know exactly where in the United States it takes place, but it shows this whole like pagan culture, kind of like The Wicker Man, how it's more like not pilgrims, like Amish people, how there's no real electricity from what I can remember. Everything's lit by candles. It starts out with a boy dying, and everyone now is upset because he's dead, and it revolves around mostly Lucius Hunt, played by Joaquin Phoenix, and Ivy Walker, played by Bryce Dallas Howard. They the rules for The Village are you cannot go into the woods because there are those we don't speak of, kind of like Voldemort. They live in the woods, and there's an agreement between the people in the village and the creatures in the woods that they don't cross each other's paths. But it turns out that Lucius Hunt wants to go outside of the village and go to the towns to try to get medicines for the people in the village. But everyone's like, no, you can't do that because the creatures will get you. And he's like, I'm not afraid. And Bryce Dallas Howard's character, Ivy, is a blind girl who has a thing for Lucius, and she's on the same wavelength. Like, she wants to go and get medicines eventually because Lucius gets injured. Not going to say how, I'm not going to spoil that. I'm going to spoil the ending for all of these movies, but I'm not going to give away details in the middle. So, what ends up happening is Ivy is sent with two other people to try to leave the village and go outside the towns. But before that, she learns from her father that the creatures in the woods are actually the elders of the village, and that the whole plan is to keep everyone inside the village forever, to just continue that way of life. Because here's where the real spoiler is: the movie takes place in modern time. Like really? It ends up just being, it's all revealed that all the elders were people who felt like they couldn't deal with normal society, so what they did was Mr. Walker, who was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, buys this whole land preserve, in which we end up finding eventually, it's called the Walker Preserve. He makes this village for all these people who feel the same way he does about normal society. They all come there and start this Amish way of life, and they all just live in this bordered village. And that's what the big twist is, that it takes place in modern times, but that's only revealed in the last 15 minutes. So for an hour and a half, you're just like, oh, why are these people scared of these creatures in the woods? And then it ends up being that the elders are scaring the townspeople, and that's it. Why do we need an hour and 45 minutes of this? I don't know. It just ends up, it just ends up being like a big circle. It's a story that, because there's a twist at the end, you just think like, oh, I just wasted all that time. With a Shyamalan movie, if someone spoils the ending for you, don't feel bad, because it'll just save you time. Because that's all his movies are. Like, after Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, he felt like, okay, I need to have some kind of plot twist to try to confuse my audience, because they paid $10 or whatever to see my movie, so I'll entertain them for an hour and 45 minutes. But eventually it's just like, okay, it takes place in modern time. Big whoop. So they're not even... what a waste. Because I guess Shyamalan had such a interest in Bryce Dallas Howard, he brought her on to his next movie that he wrote and directed. What? Man in the water. Get it? It takes place in this like Philadelphia apartment complex, modern day. It's established right away that it's modern day. Paul Giamatti is this handyman who works on everything in the apartment complex. And one night he is out by the pool and he notices a girl swimming in it, because she pops out and takes something off one of the chairs by the pool. And he goes to see who she is. And she eventually comes out of the water and says that her name is Story. And it's really weird, because all of the tenants of the apartment are supposed to... Essentially, Lady in the Water is one giant fairy tale bedtime story. And the way it goes in the movie, all the characters like have this feeling that they're self-aware of the story, that they're all part of the story. So it's kind of like a thing where if you wrote a story and then every character in the story was aware of the story going on, sounds really confusing, but that's what Lady in the Water is. And like Shyamalan, who's in it, he's in all of his movies. He's not a bad actor, he's not a great actor, but he always has to throw himself in there for some reason. He is a writer in it, and then it seems like a few other writers are living in the apartment complex, and they all have their own take on how the story is going to unfold. And they, like, Bob Balaban plays this movie critic, and in one part where there's this creature who comes, he just stands there and has this monologue saying like, now I know this creature is going to come and attack me. And it's not like a voiceover or anything, he's actually saying it out loud. He's like, but I will run, I will turn the other way and run, and close the door, and the creature will miss me just a second behind. And he says all this, and then he ends up dying. So, with Lady in the Water, it seemed like Shyamalan was trying to do a kind of thing where it's a story. I mean, that makes sense why Bryce Dallas Howard's character is named Story, and like the legend of her is told through this old Asian lady and her granddaughter, and the granddaughter has all the details, and it like nobody in the movie questions anything. Everyone's like, oh, there's this girl who's living in the pool. I guess we should all help her. Let's not worry about why there's a girl living in the pool. Let's just all help out. And guess what? We all have a part in this, because it all revolves around us. And they know that. They're like, oh, this story was supposed to happen to us. What? That's stupid. And the thing is, there's no twist in Lady in the Water. It's just a story about all these people. And you can't say, oh, movie, what do you mean? Movies are supposed to be stories. Yeah, well, when every character in the movie is aware, it's like every character in the movie read a script of the movie and was like, oh, so that's what I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm surprised there wasn't a scene in Lady in the Water where they all had books And we're like, oh, that's me. Oh, look, that's me. That's what I'm supposed to do. Oh, but I can't do that. I'm supposed to be this guy instead. Come on, Shyamalan. It seemed like he was trying to do something original, but in the end, it just comes off being boring and bland. And Paul Giamatti's character has this stupid stutter, and it's never really explained why. I guess it's just because his family was killed, but do you really develop a stutter because of that? And when he does the stutter, it's one of the most laughable things you can think of. He's just like, well, maybe like the words that he's stuttering on don't even start with the letter that he's stuttering. It's like maybe we can do this later. Like, come on, Paul Giamatti, you're better than that, for God's sakes. But nothing could have prepared me more for Shyamalan's most recent original take on horror B movies, I guess you would call it. Oh, jeez. Oh, boy. Oh, man. What was that? It's happening. It's really happening. The Happening stars Mark Wahlberg and Zooey Deschanel, and John Leguizamo. I'll throw him in there because he's in it for a decent amount of time, I guess. It starts off in Central Park, and you just see a lot of leaves and trees blowing around, and these two girls are sitting on a bench, and everyone around them is walking around, doing their leisurely thing in the park, and then everyone just stops walking. And then they start walking backwards. And this one girl who's sitting with the other girl looks at her, and the other girl's not moving. And the girl who's sitting still takes like a hair pick, not a pick, but a whatever, like one of those chopstick looking things that girls wear, out of her hair, and stabs it right into her neck. And that's how the movie starts. It just jumps up like out of nowhere. Just people start killing themselves. And then we finally get introduced to Mark Wahlberg's character, who's this high school scientist who is like having this rocky relationship with his fiance or wife, whoever she is. That's Zooey Deschanel. And then they meet up with their friend John Leguizamo, who's with his daughter, and they start learning that there's been some kind of terrorist attack, and they must get away. It's like hitting their area the most. It's hitting Philadelphia and New York the most, like where it's the most populated on the East Coast. And so, but no one's sure exactly what's going on. Everyone just says, oh, there's an event happening, we have to get out of here. But no one knows if it's a terrorist attack or if it's something else that nobody knows about. So they just try to get as far away from New York and Philadelphia as they do. One of my friends says this is like an homage to Twilight Zone. And if you want to believe that, you know who you are, fine. But don't defend Shyamalan. It is just a garbage movie. You can't... When you have Mark Wahlberg saying lines like, oh, give me a second. Just give me a second. Come on. Oh, be scientific, douchebag. Yes, he actually calls himself a douchebag. Tell himself to be scientific, trying to come up with an answer to people's questions. And like 3/4 of Mark Wahlberg's lines feel so forced. Like he read the script and just remembered certain parts, and that's the parts he tried to accentuate the most. Like, uh-oh. I know, such dramatic lines as, uh-oh. Oh, boy. Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones, what's wrong? No, I just want to talk to you for a second, Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones, no, please don't. And things like, wait a minute, what's going on? Why are you giving us one useless piece of information at a time? Just give us everything you know. What? What are you talking about? That's pretty much exactly how he spits out his lines. And it's just ridiculous. It's, the day after tomorrow. South Park did it the best with the global warming, how everyone's running away from the global warming, that shot where you just see all the townspeople running the opposite way. And guess what? That's in The Happening. You just see shots of people running away from wind. That's it. An hour and a half. People running away from wind and just acting all confused and watching other people kill themselves. For an hour and a half. That's it. I'm not making that up. That is all that happens in The Happening. Like, all you do is see these shots of trees blowing around and leaves blowing around, and that's real terrifying. But it ends up being that the toxins in the air were produced by plants and trees and stuff like that. They're releasing toxins because humans are being dangerous to the earth and, causing pollution and global warming and all this stuff. So it's the trees releasing toxins killing us. Really? The original title for this movie was called Green Planet, or the Greenhouse Effect, something like that. Come on, trees killing people. And it's not even cool like the Whomping Willow from Harry Potter or the walking trees from Lord of the Rings. It's just shots of trees, they don't even move. All they do is blow around in the wind and kill people by choking them. And not even that. The toxins get into the person's brain, I guess, and then everyone just kills themselves. Like, people stop in a car, and the shot changes, and they just, bam, plow right into a tree. And this other guy sets up a lawnmower, lets it go, it spins around, and then he puts himself on the lawnmower and just gets all hacked up. Unbelievable. So, don't defend M. Night Shyamalan. It's a waste of your time and effort. Because this guy is just going down in flames, it seems. And it's a shame, because his first 3 movies are really good. All these movies just feel like a waste of time to me. You could be doing something much better, like washing your hair, than watching these movies. You can wash your hair for an hour and a half. It'd still be more of a positive thing than watching these movies. What an awful way to spend 4.5 hours watching these 3 movies. And I can't get them back. So thank you, YouTube audience, and everyone who subscribes to me and watches my stuff. See what I have to go through? Breaks my heart, but I do it because I love you guys. I am ready to never watch another Shyamalan movie again. So for the next Why It Sucks, I have 2 choices again for you guys. I know this time I just had it set on what I was going to do, but I have either Battlefield Earth, starring John Travolta, the whole Scientology thing, or Spike Jonze's take on a classic Maurice Sendak book, Where the Wild Things Are. I got some requests for that, so I'm giving you people the option, either Battlefield Earth or Where the Wild Things Are for the next episode of Why It Sucks. But until next time, stay the hell away from Shyamalan. Good night, everyone.
Well, that's very nice. Thank you very much.